Hey folks, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and welcome back to breaking down a mix here. In this video, we are going to look at the lead guitar mix. We're going to be breaking down the lead guitar mix in today's video, but before we dive in, if you are ready to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process in its entirety and really start to hone your workflow as an audio engineer, then I have just the thing for you. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's just a simple PDF that will walk you through the entire mixing process, step by step, to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without any more of the hassle and without any more of the guesswork. It is a completely free guide, and you can download it below using the link in the video description. Now let's jump in here and take a look at the lead guitar. We're going to jump to a section here where the lead is playing. That would be right here after the second chorus. It's kind of a lead intro type guitar or a hook riff here. Just this single track here. And you can see it only comes in a couple times throughout the song, kind of as a hook or post-chorus re-intro section. So I'm going to hit play here. You can hear the guitar, the riff inside the finished mix, and then I'll solo up the lead guitar and you can hear it by itself. You can hear it's got a lot of mid-range and a lot of high mids to it. And that's right off the bat here. It's still got some good weight and some good body to it, but it sits really nicely in the track between our other electric guitars, our acoustic guitars, and our keys here. So take a listen just to the instruments here for this track. You can see it's carved its own little space right there in the middle, has just enough high mid energy to stick out and be the star in this section of the song. So let's jump in here and take a look at our lead guitar. We can see we've only got one plugin on here, and it's just an EQ, just doing a little bit of work here on the guitar. Nothing fancy, nothing pretty here. So the first thing we're doing here is, of course, a high-pass filter. You know me, I love my high-pass filters. And then, of course, a low-pass filter as well, and you'll see why when we get there in a second. But let me A-B the high-pass filter for you. I've got it up a little bit higher than normal on electric guitars, but I want to roll off some of that extra bottom end so we can carve out the space here for our lead guitar. So here's without the high-pass filter, and then with. You can hear we've got a lot of noise down below, like 150, 100 hertz there. We don't need any of that, and you're not going to hear a lot of that inside the track. We can add body back later if we need, but we're not thinning it out too much. We're just rolling off that extra bottom end that we don't need, and that's not contributing to the energy of the track here. So that's our high-pass filter. The next thing I'm going for usually on lead guitar is a low-pass filter as well, especially on a track like this, because there's already a lot of high-mid energy and a lot of top-end energy, and I want to contain some of that, or at least put in a safeguard to make sure it's not too noisy or too harsh up on the top end. So I've got this low-pass engaged, 12 dB per octave, and I've rolled it up to about 7.5K. We're at 7.6K, and it's just going to tame some of that harsh top end and some of that noise that we're getting in the extended top end, the extended high end area, like 6, 7, 8K up here. So take a listen without it, and then with. You can hear we're not changing the tone of the guitar too much, but it rolls off some of that top end sizzle. So when we put it inside the mix and we push it up so it's sitting up front, it doesn't get really harsh. Top end and guitar above about like 5 or 6K, especially on electric guitar like this, can get really harsh really fast. And if you push it to the forefront in the mix, like we are here on a lead guitar track, that's going to get brittle and that's going to hurt the listener's ears. So rolling off some of that top end with a low pass filter, even if it's up at like 7 or 8K, can be a nice safeguard to make sure that that super, super top end doesn't get harsh and it doesn't hurt your listener's ears there. It's just that top end sizzle, just rolling it back and taming it just a little bit on the top end there. So that's our second move. You can see we've now honed in on the fundamental frequency range of our electric guitar, and that's where we want to be here. So the next move we're making here is pulling out some of the heaviness, some of the muddiness in the low mid here. We're at 278 hertz, and I'm pulling out about 2 dB, negative 1.92 dB. So take a listen without this cut, then with it, and I'll boost it up so you can hear the frequency range we're pulling back here. This frequency range here in the low mids from like 200 up to 400 isn't contributing a lot of energy to the tone of the guitar or what the guitar is actually playing. It's more or less body that we want to keep in. So I'm only cutting 2 dB just to reduce some of the heaviness and the muddiness there. I don't want to go too far, otherwise we end up thinning out and kind of hollowing out the body of the guitar. We don't want to do that. We don't want to just have, you know, that 500 and up. We need some of that 200 hertz, that 300 hertz body, but we don't need all that muddiness that's building up there at the moment. So a 2 dB cut there is all we need to pull that back, but still leave enough of the body to make sure we have some low end weight on the electric guitar. Otherwise, it starts to feel thin and brittle. We need some of the low mids there to make sure it feels full range and it feels real, right? The last move we're making here is in the mid-range. We're at 722 hertz. I needed a little bit more of this mid-range area to make sure the guitar felt full range and had some energy in the mid-range to compensate for when the vocal jumps out. If we zoom out here in the track, you can see our lead guitar is never playing when the vocal is going. It comes in and fills the gaps where the vocal dips out. So post-chorus, our lead guitar comes in and gives us a hook before the vocal comes back into the verse or into the bridge. So there's no lead vocal going, so we need some of this extra mid-range area to compensate for that. Our vocal is very full range and it has a lot of mid-range, low-mid energy, so when that drops out, there's a space that needs to be filled. And adding just a half dB here in the mid-range helps to compensate for that drop of the vocal there. So take a listen without this boost and then with, and I'll also boost up this area so you can hear the frequency range that we're emphasizing on the guitar here. 700 hertz, 6, 7, 800 hertz is kind of that nasal frequency, but adding just a touch of that, we're only adding a half dB there, adds enough of the mid-range that it sits nicely when the vocal drops out and the lead guitar comes in. They kind of shift places and fill the frequency range really, really nicely, so there's no drop in energy from the chorus to the reintro and the reintro back into the verse. They transition nicely into each other and they fill that middle spot in the mix. So let's throw the guitar back in the track here, and I'll A-B the processing on our lead guitar. Only a couple moves to get our lead guitar sitting nicely inside the mix, rolling off some of that bottom end so we don't have that heavy sub noise coming in. You usually get a lot of noise on lead electric guitar. Pulling out some of the low mids, not too much. We don't want to hollow out the electric guitar sound. Adding a touch of mid-range to compensate for our vocal transition there, and then rolling off some of the super, super highs to reduce any brittleness and to reduce any harshness on the lead guitar. I hope that was helpful for you. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you're ready to take your mixes to the next level and really start dialing in your workflow as an engineer, then I have just the tool for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and you can download it below to start creating more professional mixes in less time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.